Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Ussery, and I use any and all pronouns. When I was asked today to speak about what pride means to me, it really started to get me reflecting on my own experience with pride and my journey. Thinking back to the first time I went to Pride, or kind of experienced Pride, was right after marriage equality had been, struck down or held up by the Supreme Court. And I was in this space of, this is great, we've won the fight. Pride is all about, glitter and rainbows and dancing and parties. And, we were celebrating. There wasn't any work left to do. I kind of lived in that space for a couple years. And then we had the Pulse shooting happen. And as someone who grew up upper middle class, white, male, straight passing, I'd never really experienced discrimination or any kind of fear of my own safety for who I was. And so when that happened, it was the first time I was ever consciously aware that, there were people out there that harbored this kind of hatred and that this was still an issue in our community today. So I did what I normally do when I'm unsure about things. I read a lot of books and anything I can get my hand on, and really started to understand the history of Pride in the U.S. and kind of the struggles people had gone through, where we came from, where we currently were, who was responsible, what communities were responsible for, throwing the first brick at Stonewall and recognizing that, it's really Black trans women who started this movement. And for me, that was eye-opening. And so I shifted into kind of a different stage where I got really active in political organizations and community organizations and would tell people that Pride was a riot and we don't need corporations at Pride, and really gung-ho about this activism. But it still wasn't clicking. Like for me, it still was, I kind of went from one end to the other end of the spectrum and really wasn't very satisfied with the feeling I was getting from Pride. Then a friend invited me here to Watershed, and it happened to be a day when it was either Matt or Scott was talking to Dr. Nance about the journey that Watershed had gone through on becoming an affirming community. And that really kind of struck with me as, okay, this is a place I'd stick around and check out. And so I stayed, and as I stayed, I was able to get involved in leading book clubs and working with kids at Greenhouse and things that I just knew from other churches weren't something they let someone who was openly queer do. So that kind of stuck with me and kind of got me in this space of, okay, this is really what Pride's about for me. It's about creating these safe spaces, these inclusive spaces, and cultivating a community where people can show up physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally as their true, authentic selves and be accepted and loved because of that and celebrated for it, not because or in despite of it. And so I have a quote from Brene Brown I want to read that kind of stuck with me, I want to leave you with. And she says, "Owning our story and loving ourselves through the process is the bravest thing we will ever do." And so that's kind of sat with me as really, that sums up how I feel about Pride and what it means to me. Thank you.